In the quiet suburbs of Colorado, a family seemed perfect: loving parents, beautiful children, a home filled with laughter. But behind one man's calm smile lay a storm so dark it would shatter everything in its path. Tonight, we step into the memories of someone who sensed that darkness long before the world did. This is the story of the unsettling signs, the unspoken fears, and the chilling truth that Shanann Watts' father carries to this day. Welcome to Nightfall Detectives. The memory begins quietly, almost too quietly, as if the house itself was holding something back. The first time Chris stepped through the doorway, the room changed in a way that no one could name at the time. He moved carefully, almost cautiously, with a smile that felt practiced, soft around the edges but sharp underneath. There was nothing outwardly alarming, nothing anyone could point to and say that was the moment the darkness showed itself. And yet, something in the air shifted whenever he entered the room, something subtle that made instinct stir. Nights became strange during those early visits. Long after everyone had gone to bed, faint movements slipped through the hallway, too soft to be footsteps yet unmistakably human. The silence he carried with him wasn't peaceful, it felt like something hidden, something watching. Even then, long before the world knew his name, there was an unsettling stillness in him that clung to the walls after he passed. As these memories unfold, take a moment to like this video and subscribe so more hidden truths can find their voice. Stories like this matter because they remind us that danger doesn't always announce itself. The house always seemed to dim when he was around, like light moved differently, shadows stretching just a little longer than they should. Shanann's laughter, usually bright and loud, softened around him. She would glance at him before answering simple questions, as if checking for permission she never mentioned aloud. It all felt small at the time, too small to name, but years later, each piece would click painfully into place. And through it all, there was the feeling, a quiet instinct buried deep, that something inside him was not simply shy or reserved, but hiding. Waiting. Life inside the house revealed what photographs never could. Behind the pictures of smiling children and perfect family trips, there was a thin layer of tension always pressing at the edges. It wasn't dramatic or loud, it was silent and persistent, like a pressure in the air that never let up. Small details stood out in hindsight: the way Chris would sit at the table without speaking, eyes lowered, as if any expression might betray something underneath. The way he moved from room to room without making a sound, almost as if he preferred not to be noticed at all. There were evenings when Shanann would drift into the kitchen after everyone settled down, leaning against the counter as though the world had suddenly grown too heavy. She never spoke directly about fear, but worry lived in the pauses of her sentences. "He's different lately," she said once, her voice barely above a whisper. And before anything more could be said, he appeared in the doorway, quiet, expressionless, and the conversation dissolved into silence. Days blended together, each one carrying the same unsettling rhythm. Chris disappeared into the basement for hours, offering no explanation and expecting no questions. Sometimes he would return with the same blank stare, as if his mind lived somewhere far beyond the walls of the home. Even the children felt it. They watched him with hesitation, their instincts sharper than any adult's understanding. As the tension deepens in these memories, remember to share this story. Someone out there might need to hear the signs that were missed. And if you haven't yet, subscribe so Nightfall Detectives can continue bringing these truths into the light. Looking back, the warning signs were scattered everywhere, but no one knew they were warnings at all. Not yet.
It was hard for all of us to listen to what happened, not even trying to imagine what it's like for Shanann's family to listen to some of the things that were said inside of there. You just heard from Shanann's dad, who was calling him a monster. He kept using that phrase repeatedly as he addressed the court. And we heard from several family members saying that while they don't believe in the death penalty, this sentence of life in prison certainly doesn't feel harsh enough for what happened. Here is video of Shanann's family addressing the courtroom and Christopher. Shanann's family had words filled with disgust. Her mom says that his kids used to sing the song, "Daddy is our hero." She turned to him and asked, "What gave you the right to end their lives?" The district attorney says Christopher was calm and calculated when he killed his pregnant wife and 2 kids, even taking several minutes to strangle his wife with his own hands and then smothering his daughters. An autopsy shows that one of his daughters tried to fight back for her life. The district attorney says he did all of this just to have a fresh start with his new girlfriend. Shanann's dad said this to Christopher.
"You heartless monster. You have to live with this vision every day of your life, and I hope you see that every time you close your eyes at night."
The district attorney says the morning after, when everyone was frantically looking for these 3, Watts called a realtor to try and put his house on the market, called the girls' school to try and unenroll him, looked up vacation spots, texted his girlfriend, while everyone else was frantically searching for Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. Now, this family says they still stand by that decision not to pursue the death penalty. The district attorney said that too, but they're all certainly feeling like life in prison, 3 consecutive sentences, never stepping out of prison again, still does not feel harsh enough for what he did. Emily Allen, Fox 31.
In the days leading up to the unthinkable, the house felt caught in a strange, heavy stillness. Something unseen had settled into the spaces between conversations, something cold and waiting. Chris moved through the rooms differently, stiffer, more distant, as if part of him had already detached from the world around him. His eyes rarely met anyone else's. He spoke less, and when he did, his voice lacked emotion, like the words were pushed out of routine rather than feeling. Shanann sensed the shift deeper than anyone. Her movements grew slower, her smile thinner, her silences longer. She hugged the children a little tighter, held on to moments that seemed ordinary at first glance but now feel like fragments of a farewell. On one of those final nights, she shared a quiet embrace that lingered a few seconds too long. It felt like she was trying to speak without words, trying to leave behind something she didn't know how to say aloud. Even the children picked up on the change. They clung to her with an instinctive understanding that something was wrong, something they couldn't name but could feel. And through it all, Chris drifted like a shadow disconnected from its owner, present in form but hollow in essence. If this story has pulled you in, take a moment to like this video. These stories continue through your support, and your engagement helps bring hidden truths forward. Don't forget to subscribe if you're drawn to uncovering the darkness beneath ordinary lives. With each passing day, the air in the house grew heavier, more suffocating. The warnings had been there, unspoken but undeniable. And when the calls went unanswered, when the messages stopped, when the house fell into a silence that felt final, instinct screamed what no one wanted to believe. Something terrible had already happened. The days that followed unfolded like a nightmare no one could wake from. The search began, frantic and desperate, while the world watched closely. Chris stood before cameras with rehearsed concern, offering carefully chosen words that felt strangely detached from the urgency of the situation. His face did not show panic. His voice did not quiver. Instead, he maintained an eerie calm, as though playing a part in a story he already knew the ending to. Behind the scenes, cracks began to form. Investigators noticed inconsistencies. Small lies slipped through the cracks, each one tugging at the thread of truth. Every hour that passed tightened the knot in the stomachs of those who knew Shanann best. Something was wrong, not just with the situation, but with the man supposedly desperate to find his family. Time blurred as questions multiplied. The interrogations grew sharper, more precise. And when the truth finally broke open, it shattered everything. The confession was cold, emotionless, horrifying in its simplicity. The details that surfaced were darker than anyone had imagined, details that revealed the hollow core behind the calm exterior Chris had worn for years. As this chapter weighs heavily on your heart, pause for a moment to share this video. These stories reach those who need them because of you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, so Nightfall Detectives can continue exposing the truths others never hear. When the reality settled in, grief transformed into something deeper, an ache paired with disbelief, a sorrow sharpened by betrayal. The pieces of the past rearranged themselves into a picture too horrifying to ignore. Every quiet moment, every strange stare, every whispered fear now pointed to a darkness hiding in plain sight. The weight of everything that happened never truly lifts. In the quiet moments, the memories return, the dinners shared, the footsteps in the hallway, the polite smiles exchanged with someone pretending to be harmless. It becomes impossible not to replay each moment, searching for clues that now seem painfully obvious. The truth is haunting. The darkness was there all along, sitting silently at the table, walking down the hallway, blending into ordinary life with unsettling ease. Reflection brings both clarity and torment. Every moment once brushed aside as harmless now carries new meaning. The late-night disappearances, the empty stares, the emotionless voice, all pieces of a puzzle no one wanted to solve until it was too late. The guilt of hindsight weighs heavily, pressing down with questions that can never be answered. Could something have changed if the signs had been recognized sooner? Could the unimaginable have been prevented? But alongside that guilt sits a sobering truth: evil does not always appear as a monster. Sometimes it hides behind small smiles and quiet voices. Sometimes it exists in the silence between words. Sometimes it lives in the person everyone thinks they know. As you listen to this final chapter, remember to like this video so these stories continue to reach others. Subscribe to Nightfall Detectives so more hidden truths can be brought to light and more voices can be heard before danger finds silence again. In the end, the memory remains not only as a tragedy but as a warning. Trust your instincts when something feels off. Pay attention to the small things. Listen for what people don't say. The shadows in everyday life can hide more than anyone imagines, and sometimes the most dangerous darkness is the one that stands quietly beside you.